Haribo, Namaste, Krishna. Welcome to my Bhagavad Gita class and short Kirtan. Tonight we'll be discussing Bhagavad Gita, chapter 5, text 7. Mati Sira Sarupananda Paramahansa Itinamine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishna Bhutale Shrimati Sira Sarupananda Paramahansa Itinamine Nama Sira Sarupananda Paramahansa Namine Gora Karuna Sarupaya Radha Krishna Kristaya Nama Sira Sarupananda Paramahansa Namine Gora Karuna Sarupaya Radha Krishna Kristaya Namaste Saraswati Deva Gauravani Pacharine Nirvasesha Sunyavade Vaskachare Satarine Namaste Saraswati Deva Gauravani Pacharine Nirvasesha Sunyavade Vaskachare Satarine Vajashi Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Asarika Bhaktavrinda Vajashi Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Asarika Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Nityananda Nityananda Gauranga Gauranga Nityananda Nityananda Gauranga Gauranga Nityananda Nityananda Gauranga Gauranga Nityananda Nityananda Gauranga Gauranga Radha Krishna Vrindavan 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 Nityananda Nityananda Gauranga Gauranga Nityananda Nityananda Gauranga Gauranga Nityananda Nityananda Gauranga Gauranga Jai Jai Srila Prabhupada Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajakasattara Sarashishimad Jagakuru Siddhaswarupananda Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajakasattara Sarashishimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koda Vaishnava Ki Jai. Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadara, Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Nitai Gaur's World Mission Ki Jai, Navadvita Dhamma Ki Jai, Shri Radha Krishna Gaur Gopinath, Shamakun Radhakun, Giri Govardhana Ki Jai, Vrindavanam Ki Jai, Mathuradam Ki Jai, Mayapodam Ki Jai, Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Jamuna Mai Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Oh, glorious the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. Oh, glorious the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. Oh, glorious the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. Oh, glorious to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga, Gaura Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. Amagyana Timarandasya Ganagana Shalakaya Chaksurun Militanyena Tajmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobistam Statpitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Karamayam Dadati Swaparantekam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalan Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrijatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajevam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagapate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhi Vrindavanishwari Rishabhanu Sutu Devi Pranamame Hari Priye Vanchakapa Turubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaevacha Patitanam Bhavenbhyo Vaishnavbhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So before speaking, first I offer my humble obeisances at the lotus feet of my spiritual master, Jagakuru Siddhaswarupananda Srila Prabhupada, who is very dear to Lord Krishna, having taken shelter at his lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada is the mercy manifestation of Lord Chaitanya. He is very dear to Radha and Krishna. I offer my respectful obeisances to all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, who are like wish-fulfilling trees, able to fulfill all the desires of the fallen living entities, and are full of compassion upon them. Haribo, Namaste. Thank you for watching as we continue our journey through Bhagavad Gita. The beautiful song of the Supreme Lord. So we're continuing with Bhagavad Gita, chapter 5. Action in Krishna consciousness. Kama Yoga, action in Krishna consciousness. So the first 6 verses, are on a theme of that work and devotion is better than renunciation of work, or that Arjuna had asked Krishna to tell him which is better, work, karma, or renunciation of work. In other words, Arjuna's, he doesn't want to fight. He's made this very clear at the beginning of Bhagavad Gita to Krishna. Doesn't think it's right, doesn't want to do it. It's going to cause a lot of pain and suffering for himself and others. He's going to have to kill beloved relatives. It's going to create all kinds of widows. From widows will come unwanted progeny because they'll be taken advantage of by various men who won't take responsibility for their children. And, in short, various other reasons Arjuna gave for why, if this battle takes place, the world's going to go to hell. And Arjuna doesn't want to do that, quite understandably. And anyway, so he's always looking for an out. But Krishna's always telling him, in between speaking various aspects of yoga philosophy and even speaking about renunciation and meditation, and samadhi, peacefulness, shanti, peacefulness. So Arjuna is kind of confused. How can one be peaceful? How can one experience shanti or Brahma Nirvanam, merging into the Supreme, or experiencing the bliss of Brahman? How can one experience this if you want me to fight? Fighting is not peaceful. In fact, it's the opposite of peaceful. So, so Arjuna's kind of confused. And Krishna, so he asked Krishna, and this is the second time he's asked Krishna. Actually, it's the third time that Arjuna's asked Krishna to clarify, what is it that you want me to do? I'm confused about my duty. Please tell me what it is you want me to do. Now, this whole discussion that's taking place in Bhagavad Gita is very relevant for all of us. We're all wondering, what should I do? If we're on the path of reading Bhagavad Gita, studying Bhagavad Gita, this means that throughout this lifetime and previous lifetimes, we've been engaged on a quest, the quest to attain spiritual knowledge and to understand, who am I, what is the purpose of life, and what should I be doing with my life? And so oftentimes people think that spirituality means to sit around meditating, being very peaceful, like wearing a shirt somewhat like this one, and placing oneself in some holy place, Vrindavan Dham or Navadvip Dham, or maybe we can just sit here in my home studio here, or my home here, where I have these wonderful pictures of Radha Krishna, my spiritual master, Lord Jagannath, Krishna Balaram. You can see behind me is my altar, and I have a nice comfortable chair just there, and I can sit there and chant on my beads whilst looking at the deities of Krishna. And this is very peaceful. This is peaceful. This is meditative, although of course, unfortunately, my mind is always racing and thinking of different things that I'm engaged in, my devotional service, different aspects of what I'm doing. But anyway, we can be thinking, I'd like to just be like that, like withdraw from the world. I mean, the world is difficult. I mean, when we're in this world and active within this world, we're having relationships. We're dealing with other people. And as a result of dealing with these other people, there's always misunderstandings, conflicts arise. Like, as this current age is known as Kali Yuga, the age of quarrel, chaos, and confusion. So you can just, even husband and wives are fighting, they're quarreling, they're in chaos, they're getting divorced. They so-called loved each other at some point, and now they can't stand each other and want to get divorced. How unnatural is this, right? So, or with our children, we end up in disputes with them. They feel that the parents aren't being good enough. They're not good enough providers, or they didn't give me a good enough childhood, these are kind of silly kind of gripes, unappreciative gripes. Or it may be that the parents were actually bad people and did bad things to them. I mean, there's just been a case here in America now where, there's a woman, she had a baby, I guess she wasn't married, and she had some new boyfriend, and she wanted to go off with the new boyfriend. She went off to, I think it was Puerto Rico. She lived on the mainland somewhere. And she has a baby who's I don't remember the age of the baby, I think, but it's over 1, but less than 18 months. And just leaves the baby for 10 days. Leaves him in a playpen, so the baby can't get out. Left a couple of bottles of milk, and that's it. And she goes. And of course, the baby's, after a while, the baby's screaming, but nobody hears, or if they do hear, they don't act on it. And the baby dies. So then the woman comes back after 10 days, and the baby's dead, and she kind of acts like it's not her, she didn't cause it, but she calls 911. Anyway, I'm not sure why I'm going into this whole discussion about this, but it's just this is the nature of the material world. We can be terribly abused by others. I mean, what more of a trusting, loving relationship is there supposed to be if it's not a mother for a child? Now, of course, the mother, is probably going through all kinds of hell, and obviously was mentally unstable to do this. But anyway, my point is when you're active in the world, these kind of things happen. If you're in the world and you're in relationships, and you're in a marriage or a romantic relationship, or if it's just a sexual relationship, then there's the possibility of kids, then you've got to deal with the kids. So you're active in the world, and all kinds of complications come. Okay, I'm married, I've got to get a job, I've got to make money, now I've got to deal with a boss, I've got to deal with co-workers, I've got to deal with customers. Customers have got complaints. Maybe I'm in, just in the mainland, so maybe I'm a steward or a hostess or whatever on a plane, and I got to deal with some difficult jerk who's causing trouble. So anyway, this is the nature of the world. When you're in the world, it's difficult. So we start thinking, I'd like to get liberated. I'd like to get liberated. I'd like to not have to deal with all these problems. And I'm experiencing misery and suffering as a result of my being active in this world. So I begin to think about liberation, mukti, liberation. I've been pushed down the path of bhukti, sense enjoyment, trying to enjoy myself, trying to find happiness in this material world, and I'm becoming frustrated because everything I tried somehow doesn't work. Okay, I thought I was in love and I got married to this wonderful person, and then they turned around one day and said, I don't love you anymore. So my heart was like, completely broken, shattered. So I experienced this pain, and I just go through incredible hardship. Some people are getting, I used to have a lady who worked for me as a bookkeeper, and she lived in Kihei, and the accounting office was up in Mokoau, this is on the island of Maui. About a 35-minute drive each day. And, my wife and I and the kids were going on a trip to Australia. My father was very generously paying for us to go to visit them, because of course he wanted to see the grandkids. Anyway, so we go, and then we get to Australia, and after a couple of days, I'm calling my accountant, and she tells me, the bookkeeper quit. I was like, oh, why? Well, because she was having panic attacks driving from Kihei to Mokoau. So she's in so much anxiety just about driving, having to deal with the traffic. So she has panic attacks and just decides, look, I can't handle it. I can't handle it. I've got to quit my job, even though I know it's going to cause all kinds of hardship, and my boss is away in Australia. It's just, this is the nature of the material world. If we're engaged and active in the material world, then we're experiencing difficulties and hardships. And so then I become frustrated, and I seek liberation, mukti. I want to get free of all these problems. So here we have Arjuna. He's got problems like you can't believe. They're like way worse than the problems we deal with. Right? We deal with our problems. But Arjuna, he's dealing with massive problems with huge consequences for the whole world, as it was at that time. And it's going to involve personal warfare, extreme violence, killing on a mass scale, and not by, not the way that killing is done these days, where there's some general sitting safely a long distance away from the front lines, giving orders that result in large number of deaths and casualties without him personally being involved. Now, Arjuna's going to have to be involved in the killing himself, and he's going to have to kill people like Bhishma Dev, his beloved grandfather, and Dronacharya, his military teacher. And he is just not wanting to do it. So he's seeking to not have to do this. So he's always asking Krishna, is there some way out of this? Do I really have to do this? And sometimes Krishna sort of says things that give Arjuna the glimmer of hope that he doesn't have to fight. But then Krishna always comes back to, no, you have to fight. So Arjuna is asking again at the start of chapter 5, do I really have to fight? It's like some kid. Young kids, they generally don't want to go to school, because sometimes they like school. But generally they don't want to go to school, so they ask their mummy or their daddy, do I really have to? Do I really have to go? And the parent says, yes, you really have to go. It's for your ultimate benefit. If you don't go, you'll just grow up to be you'll be uneducated, illiterate, and you won't be able to function in the world, and you won't be able to support yourself, and you won't be able to get married, and you'll just be a burden on society. So yes, you have to get an education. So this is similar like this. Arjuna's kind of like, do I really have to fight? Krishna, do I really have to fight? Krishna is like, yes, Arjuna, you really have to fight. For a host of reasons, which Krishna has given a variety of different reasons why up to this point. And here in this chapter it's again Krishna is describing that why karma yoga, action in Krishna consciousness, or action, nishkama karma yoga, action without desire for fruitive results. Why this, Krishna is explaining why this is better than sannyas or renunciation or tyaga. Renunciation, giving up. Right? So in the first 6 verses which we've discussed over the last 6 or so weeks, Krishna has explained in various different benefits or reasons why the yoga of action, karma, is better than sannyas or renunciation of action. So is by essentially comparing the two and concluding that karma yoga is the best. So now, in this section of Bhagavad, of chapter 5, which is the second theme of chapter 5, Krishna is now moving on to describe more about karma yoga. So he's established karma yoga is the best, engage in action, it's safest, it's essentially all the same path. All yoga is leading towards union with the Supreme Lord. But Krishna was describing Sankhya yoga, but in the sense of describing, renunciation and meditation and analysis, mental speculation, right? So Krishna is describing no better than that and safer is the path of action, karma, engaging in action without desire for the fruit of results. And ultimately Krishna goes on to further clarify and explain that this means to act for his pleasure. And ultimately, at the end of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, just abandon all varieties of religion. Sarvadhamman parityaja. Just sarva dhamma, sarva, all, dhamma, religion or duties. So Krishna's been talking about karma yoga and jnana yoga, and sankhya yoga, sannyas yoga, whatever. He's talking about all of it. Krishna just says, give it all up. Sarvadhamam parityaja. Just give it all up. Mamekam sharanam braja. And just surrender unto me. Sharanam. Take shelter. So anyway, so we're moving into a section of chapter 5 where Krishna is going to describe what the kind of attitude or the psychology of a person who's working without attachment to the fruits or the results of his activities. So, text 7. Krishna says, one who works in devotion, who is a pure soul, and who controls his mind and senses, is dear to everyone, and everyone is dear to him. Though always working, such a man is never entangled. Yoga yukto vishuddhatma vijatma jitendriya hi. Sava bhutatma bhutatma kavanapi na lipyate. Yoga yukto vishuddhatma vijatma jitendriya hi ha. Sava bhutatma bhutatma kavanapi na lipyate. So there's a lot of interesting points within the Sanskrit and also within the English for that matter in this particular verse. But yoga yukta. So yoga means the process of linking up with the Supreme, right, to become yoked, union. This is the goal of life, right? Yoga, to achieve union with the Supreme Lord, with the Supreme. We're all looking for yoga. We're all looking for someone to love, right? The highest form of union is a loving relationship. In a loving relationship, which may include physical sex or not, but the real union comes when there's like this loving relationship, where there's like great care between two people. I'm feeling care and concern and tenderness, and what we call love for another person. And when they're reciprocating it, when that person's also feeling the same way, where they're caring for us and tender towards us and loving us, then it becomes like this amazing feeling. Like I remember, I've told this a few times, but like, when I first got together with my wife, Radhi Shamdasi, it was like, I just remember just like being so elated. It's like so happy. It's sort of like you feel very light. I remember I even become, I'm a bit of a grumpy kind of person and very serious, not very outgoing. And I remember when I got in this sort of relationship, then all of a sudden you feel very outgoing and friendly towards others, because I was feeling so happy, blissful. So, and this is the, and I remember one time driving into town here in Kailua, and saw some friends walking along the side of the road, and they were engaged to get married, and the guy, he's a bit taller than the girl, and they're quite young, and she's like looking up at him, and he's like looking down at her, and there's this, and it looked like they were, you could just see they're like totally, I mean, this is just quickly driving by, you see, and you go, oh. Anyway, you can see they're absorbed in each other and in love with each other, a tender, loving relationship. And it was like it was almost like their feet weren't touching the ground, it's almost like they're floating down the road, as they're absorbed in each other and experiencing this union and love for each other. And so this is a type of yoga. And when a person is experiencing this kind of yoga, then there's actually all kinds of impacts on the physical body, like I was describing, that I become nicer, right? More caring and friendlier to others, right? So this is like one aspect of it. But there's also like, there's chemical reactions going on with, I forget the name of the chemicals, I think it's like serotonin or something, but anyway, there's these different chemical reactions that are going on that are giving rise to these feelings of elation, or contributing to them. And so this is why where the nature of the soul is to want to love and be loved. It's both. Right? Sometimes it can be described that this is the Dharma, or the Sanatana Dharma, the eternal nature of the soul. Water is wet, and the soul wants to love and be loved. Sometimes, of course, this Sanatana Dharma is described as service, the serving tendency. We're always serving. Either we're serving the Supreme Lord out of love, or we're serving the Supreme Lord's external energy, Maya. And there's not so much love in that, that's lust. We're trying to enjoy it, trying to exploit it for our own happiness. So this desire to love and be loved, so ultimately the pure desire of the pure spirit soul is just to love. And doing it without demanding reciprocation. I'll love you if you love me. This is like lust in this material world. These relationships I'm describing of the man and the woman being in love and experiencing all this elation and chemicals popping off in their hearts and minds and whatever, and just being ecstatic and elated and so on. That all ends immediately if one of the people says, no, I don't, you know what, I think we need to take a break. This is too much. It's too intense for me. Or whatever it is, whatever they say, however they break the news, that heck, I don't love you anymore. Or even they sometimes say, I just love you so much, I've just got to take a break. Whatever it is, and then the other one is like devastated, like, it's like death. Anyway, so this is what yoga is like. So if you can understand and appreciate how much elation and wonderful feelings come from union with another minute living entity, a jivatma, then just try to wrap your mind around the idea of how much blissfulness and happiness there is when a person achieves union or a loving relationship with the most attractive person there is. Like we fall in love with our wife or our husband, but our husband has a material body and it emits all kinds of foul odors, and or has deficiencies in it. It grows old. And but the Supreme Lord, Krishna, is all attractive. He's the most beautiful person. Eternally so. Eternal youth. And you ever fresh. And his name is Rama, he who gives pleasure. Right? So in the loving relationship with Rama, one experiences pleasure, blissfulness. So like I'm sort of talking like this, but we not having experienced that, I'm not able to convey it. But it's like Krishna is able to have a loving relationship of great intensity, huge intensity, more intensity than we can imagine, with every living being there is. He's infinite in his capacity to reciprocate loving relationships. It's not like with our spouse, well, you can only kind of love one person, right? So it becomes limited. We might be able to expand a little bit to our kids, right? To our spouse, our kids, our parents, our family members, right? But very limited. It's not like, well, my neighbor, okay, well, no, I don't really love them. Or the guy down the street, or the guy of like in America right now, it's so divisive. Republicans and Democrats, right? Trump supporters and Trump haters, or people are going to stand Trump, so no, I don't love them. Anyone who has opposite political views to mine, forget it, I hate them, or if their color of their skin is different than mine, I don't love them, so, or their social position or their wealth or so on, well, no, it is different than mine, no, I don't love them. So our love is very limited. But Krishna's love is unconditional for all of us, and it can be and has the potential to be, if we're able to reciprocate or if we're able to experience Krishna's unconditional love for everyone, for every living being. We are his parts and parcels. So anyway, so this is yoga and yukta, yoga yukta. This means one who's actually in yoga. Right? Sometimes the word yoga can refer to the process. Right? We say, oh, I'm into yoga. Well, I'm not saying then I'm into being in union with the Supreme Lord. I'm talking about the process of yoga. Yeah, I'm engaged in bhakti yoga. Or yeah, I do, hatha yoga. Or I'm so, but yoga yukta means one who's actually in yoga in the sense of linking up. Right? So engaged in devotional service or being disciplined in yoga, yogta yoga. And then Krishna says, Vishuddhatma, Vijit Atma, Jitendriyaha. So, Vishuddhatma, a purified soul, whose self is purified, whose self is cleansed, those are purified intelligence, who has a purified mind. So actually the commentators on this verse, they're describing these three terms, Vishuddhatma, Vijaratma, Jitendriya. They're describing that this Vishuddhatma means a purified intelligence. Of course, it could mean a purified soul. A lot of the commentators are describing that three kinds of yoga yukta personalities. So one kind is the one who has purified intelligence. The next is the Vijitatma, the self-controlled, whose self is subdued, whose self is conquered, whose heart is purified. Those of controlled mind, whose intelligence is under his own control. So this is, but the commentators are taking this as being of controlled mind. So like a higher level is controlled intelligence, then there is a controlled mind, and then there is control of the senses, jitendriyaha. So having conquered the senses, whose senses are conquered. So Krishna is, he's saying that, or in Bhaktivedanta Swami's translation, that one who works in devotion, so there's one who's yoga yukta, who is a pure soul, and who controls his mind and senses. Or as other commentators are taking it, one who's yoked, who's in yoga, who has purified intelligence, purified mind, and is in control of the senses or purified senses. So what is their situation? So, Sava Bhutatma, Bhutatma. So Sava Bhuta. This is all Bhuta, beings, Atma. Atma. So different commentators are taking this word Atma differently. Sometimes it's taken as referring to the Paramatma, and sometimes referring to the Jivatma, the individual spirit soul. Or the word Atma can also apply to intelligence and mind. So it's kind of quite a broad term. But here, referring to the self. And then Bhutatma. So This Sarva Bhutatma, so it means compassionate to all living entities. So one who's working in devotion, who is purified. So how they're purified by this working in devotion. This process of karma yoga is purifying. Working in a detached manner, detached from the results, and working for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord, doing the right thing being to do things in accordance with Krishna's instructions in Bhagavad Gita and in the Vedic literatures. This is purifying. It purifies our intelligence, our mind. It helps us to be able to control our senses. So when we're in that situation, then so we're purified and cleansed. Right? Like Lord Chaitanya's first prayer is Chaito Dharpana Marjanam. So the consciousness or the chitta, this is another kind of aspect of the subtle body, the consciousness. The consciousness of the living being, the chitta, is purified by the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. And it's likened to a mirror. It's like cleansing a mirror of all the dust accumulated for lifetimes. Chaito Dharpana Marjanam. Cleansing the heart and the mind of the consciousness of all the dust accumulated for lifetimes. And what is this dust? It's all these impurities, all these anathas, unwanted things, unwanted desires, all misunderstandings, not understanding the purpose of life or who I am. But anyway, so one who's been purified by this process of karma yoga then feels compassion for all other living beings. So compassion for all living beings, so whose heart feels for all beings like oneself. So like generally, we love ourselves, we're very concerned about ourselves. I'm very concerned about my own well-being. Your well-being I'm not quite as concerned about, right? My neighbour's well-being, I'm not so concerned about that either. I'm very sort of self-centered. This is the unfortunate situation of the living entity. We're generally very selfish. Who's the most, when I get up in the morning, who am I thinking about? Well, I'm thinking about me. Now, of course, in the process of bhakti yoga, we learn we should get up in the morning and go Krishna. So that my first thought is of Krishna, not about me. And then I get up and I pay my obeisances, touch my head to the ground, offer my obeisances at the lotus feet of my spiritual master and Krishna, Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda. So that my consciousness, I'm trying to affect my consciousness. So this is the process of sadhana bhakti. In sadhana bhakti, I'm practicing, I'm engaging in certain processes with the aim of purifying myself, so that at some point, when I'm purified, and I actually have bhakti, as opposed to trying to develop bhakti, then when I get up in the morning, I automatically think of Krishna. Not that I have to wake up now and remember, I should chant Krishna so that I think of Krishna. Right? So I'm doing it because it's a practice or a process I've been told is beneficial for me. It's like the residents of Vrindavan, Mother Yashoda. When she wakes up in the morning, she's automatically thinking of Krishna out of spontaneous love because she loves him so much. All she can do is think about Krishna. If Krishna's away in the fields herding the calves or the cows, then all the inhabitants of Vrindavan town are just constantly thinking about Krishna. And when's Krishna going to come back home? And when can I see Krishna again? This is happening spontaneously. This is raga, spontaneous love for Krishna. But in the process of sadhana bhakti, we're trying to develop, this is the vidhi magga, or vaidhi bhakti, the path of practice. We're practicing devotion. I don't actually have devotion. I may be developing some devotion, but I don't have pure devotion where I'm just only concerned about Krishna. This in our impure stage, we're still concerned about ourselves. So anyway, so one who's purified by engaging in the process of yoga, then we care about other people as much as we care about ourselves. I mean, what a radical idea is that? Right? So we realize that everybody else is just like me, and that they're a spirit soul, part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. They're my brother and my sister. And I begin relating to them as such, with love for them. And so a person who's feeling like this, then naturally is loved by all others. Now, unfortunately, in the material world, sometimes it doesn't work out like that, or it doesn't work like that. Haridas Thakur, he's loving everyone, but he's oppressed by the Muslims. Lord Jesus Christ, he's teaching love. My first and foremost commandment is to love God with all your heart and all your being and all your mind. And the second is like unto it, to love your neighbor as yourself. That's exactly what Krishna's saying here in Sava Bhutatma Bhutatma. Love others. Right? But my God, that was just such a radical idea. The religious hierarchy couldn't handle it, and they had to crucify Jesus. It's terrible. And so a person who's like this, who's working in devotion, who's a pure soul, who's been controlling his mind and senses, is dear to everyone and everyone is dear to him. So even though this person, Kavan Napi, although engaged in work, he is na lipyate, never entangled. He's not befouled, he's not speared, he's not tainted. So his actions are not entangling him within this material world. There's no karmic reaction to what they're doing. So in the next verses, Krishna further describes the psychology or mentality of the karma yogi. So look forward to that next week. So Lord Chaitanya's appearance day on Sunday, and tomorrow night on congregational Kirtan, I'll be giving a talk on Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. I was going to read some very nice sections of Sri Chaitanya Mangala by Lochan Das Thakur. Some wonderful pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, and speak on them for a little bit. So, Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Haribo, Jai Lord Chaitanya, Hare Krishna. So anyway, so the talk I'll give tomorrow night is at 7 p.m. Hawaii time. Please join me if you like. Haribo, Krishna.